Black in the Bible. The African stories you were never told. Part 1. Ham was one of Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who survived the great flood aboard Noah's ark, accompanied by their wives and Noah and his wife, according to Genesis 6:9. Following the flood, God directed Noah's family to repopulate the earth, which they did. Ham became a significant patriarch of peoples and territories across Africa, Canaan, and portions of the ancient Near East. Unfortunately for Ham and his son Canaan, Ham's story took a troubling turn after the flood. Ham made a big mistake that cost them tremendously and painfully for generations. It all began after the flood, when Noah planted a vineyard, produced wine, became drunk, and lay uncovered inside his tent. Ham saw his father's nakedness, left him exposed, and went outside of the tent to tell his brothers, Shem and Japheth, what he had seen. In contrast, Shem and Japheth took a garment, placed it across their shoulders, walked backward into the tent, and covered their father without looking upon his nakedness. This was a costly mistake for Ham. Genesis 9:24 states, "And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him." When Noah awoke and learned what had occurred, he pronounced a curse, not upon Ham himself, nor upon all of Ham's descendants, but specifically upon Ham's son Canaan, declaring, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." Genesis 9:25. Ham's mistake resulted in a curse on his son Canaan and the Canaanites indefinitely. Today, there is no single modern ethnic group that can be identified simply as the Canaanites. Biblical Canaanites existed as distinct ancient populations during ancient times. People called Canaanites lived primarily in the Levant, encompassing much of present-day Israel, the Palestinian territories, Lebanon, and parts of Jordan and Syria. Modern populations of this region, including Lebanese, Palestinians, Druze, Syrians, Jordanians, and Jewish populations to varying degrees, can share ancestry with ancient Levantine, Canaanite populations alongside ancestry introduced through thousands of years of migration and admixture. Ham had 4 sons, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Their descendants became associated with numerous peoples and territories of the ancient world. Cush and his descendants are strongly associated with Kush in regions south of Egypt, while Cush's son Nimrod established a kingdom in Shinar, or Mesopotamia, that included Babel. Ham's son, Mizraim, is the biblical name closely associated with Egypt. Ham's other son, Put, is generally associated with North Africa and Libya, although its precise location remains debated. And as mentioned prior, Canaan became the ancestor of the various Canaanite peoples of the Levant. Through these lineages, Ham became the patriarchal ancestor of innumerable peoples who played major roles throughout biblical history, including the Egyptians, Cushites, Canaanites, and groups associated with the Philistines, among others. Some of these nations later became allies, neighbors, and at times rivals or enemies of Israel. The Bible itself poetically refers to Egypt as the land of Ham, notably in Psalms 78:51. Colonialism's enormous misuse of the curse of Ham. For centuries, this biblical account was profoundly distorted and misused to justify the enslavement and racial oppression of African people, particularly during the transatlantic slave trade and subsequent eras of racial slavery and segregation. Some theologians, slaveholders, political leaders, and other proponents of racial hierarchy falsely taught that Noah had cursed Ham and that the curse either gave Ham or his descendants dark skin and condemned African peoples to perpetual servitude. This is not true. The biblical text says no such thing. Genesis never states that Noah cursed Ham, never says that the curse changed anyone's skin color, and never connects dark skin with divine punishment or servitude. The curse pronounced in Genesis 9:25 is specifically directed toward Canaan and was not based on skin color. Canaan's descendants became associated primarily with the peoples of ancient Canaan in the Levant, including the Sidonians, Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashans, Hivites, Arkites, Simrites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. This territory broadly encompassed portions of what are now Israel, the Palestinian territories, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria, although ancient Canaanite populations should not simply be equated one-to-one with any single modern population. And by no means does this justify cruelties nor the genocide of people residing in these regions. The later doctrine, commonly called the Curse of Ham, represents a serious distortion of the biblical text. The curse was pronounced upon Canaan, not Cush, Mizraim, Put, or all descendants of Ham, and scripture provides no biblical basis for interpreting dark skin or African ancestry as a curse. Yet, I continue to pray for peace and for the well-being of those dwelling in the Levant. Noah's Ark and the mountains of Ararat. Notably, Genesis 8:4 states that after the flood, the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. The biblical wording refers to the mountains of Ararat rather than explicitly identifying the modern mountain now called Mount Ararat. Historically, Ararat is associated with the ancient region later known as Urartu, broadly connected with the Armenian highlands encompassing portions of present-day eastern Turkey, Armenia, and surrounding areas. The famous Mount Ararat, a massive volcanic mountain located in present-day eastern Turkey near Armenia and Iran, later became traditionally associated with the resting place of Noah's Ark. I reiterate that Noah and his brown sons landed in this Turkish area. Some say that all Noah's sons were not brown, but if at least one of his sons, Ham, was the ancestor of Africans, and Put, who resided in northern Africa and Libya, and Mizraim resided in Egypt, which is still a part of Africa, so possibly 3 of Noah's sons were African. What does that tell you about Noah? Within the biblical narrative, Noah and his family emerged from the ark in this broader region before their descendants dispersed into other lands. The narrative therefore places brown-skinned people, at least temporarily, residing in the Ararat region at the beginning of the post-flood account. Another point worth highlighting is that God is the source of the design and instructions for Noah's Ark. Genesis 6:14-16 details divine instructions concerning its construction, dimensions, materials, compartments, opening, and decks. Thus, within the biblical narrative, sophisticated knowledge concerning the construction of this enormous vessel was given directly by God to Noah, who built the ark with his family before the flood. This maritime and construction knowledge would consequently have existed within Noah's surviving family as humanity dispersed after the flood. The lineage of Ham, according to Genesis 10:6. Ham had 4 sons: Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. These 4 ancestral lines became associated with numerous nations and peoples described in the biblical Table of Nations. Ham's son, Cush, had sons named Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka. Rama had 2 sons, Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the father, or ancestral progenitor, of Nimrod, whom Genesis 10:8-9 describes as one who began to be a mighty one in the earth, and as a mighty hunter before the Lord, or before Yahweh. Ham's lineage runs deep. Genesis 10:10 states that the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom included Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Shinar is generally identified with Mesopotamia, particularly southern Mesopotamia in modern-day Iraq. Babel is associated with Babylon, Erech with ancient Uruk, and Akkad with Akkad, although the precise archaeological location of Akkad remains uncertain. The identification of Calneh is also uncertain. Genesis 10:11-12 then connects the narrative with Assyria, mentioning Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Calah, and Rezin, located between Nineveh and Calah. Ancient Assyria was centered primarily in what is now northern Iraq, although the Assyrian Empire at its height extended across territories now within Iraq, Syria, southeastern Turkey, Iran, the Levant, and even Egypt. Nineveh was located near present-day Mosul in northern Iraq. Calah is generally identified with ancient Kalhu, modern Nimrud, also in northern Iraq. Rezin is described biblically as lying between Nineveh and Calah, while the precise identification of Rehoboth-ir remains uncertain. Mizraim. Ham's son Mizraim, whose name is closely associated with ancient Egypt, became the father or ancestral progenitor of Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Naphtuhim, Pathrusim, Kazluhim, and Kaphtorim. Genesis 10 also connects this lineage with the Philistines. The descendants of Mizraim are generally associated with Egypt and neighboring northeastern African and Mediterranean populations. Put was also Ham's son, and is listed in Genesis 10:6 without a detailed genealogy in the Table of Nations. Biblical and ancient historical traditions generally associate Put with Libya and North Africa, often with territory west of Egypt. Ham's son Canaan was the father or ancestral progenitor of Sidon, his firstborn, Heth, and the Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. Genesis 10:18 states, "Afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad." Genesis 10:19 then describes the territory of the Canaanites as extending from Sidon, as thou comest to Jerah unto Gaza, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha, further solidifying that the Canaanite people principally reside within the Levant and Eastern Mediterranean world. Genesis 10:20 concludes, "These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations." Ham's descendants and the peoples of Africa and the ancient Near East. The biblical Table of Nations places many of Ham's descendants in regions that became major centers of ancient civilization across Africa and the Near East. Cush is strongly associated with lands south of Egypt and the African kingdom of Kush. Mizraim is strongly associated with Egypt. Put is strongly associated with a region generally associated with North Africa, and Canaan is strongly associated with the Levant. Through Cush's descendant Nimrod, the genealogy also establishes a significant connection with Shinar, Mesopotamia. These regions were inhabited since ancient times, and over time, populations with diverse physical appearances and complex ancestries have developed and evolved. Many indigenous peoples of Northeast Africa, North Africa, the Nile Valley, the Levant, and the broader Near East would today be described as having varying shades of brown skin, although modern racial categories such as Black, White, and Middle Eastern cannot be projected neatly onto populations living thousands of years ago.
Because race is merely a social construct, it has been highlighted by those who desire to create systems of oppression. Over thousands of years, migration, conquest, trade, intermarriage, enslavement, and population admixture brought peoples from Africa, Europe, Central Asia, Arabia, and other regions into sustained contact. This contributed to the broad range of skin color variations, physical characteristics, cultures, and genetic ancestries visible among modern populations of Africa and the Middle East.
Ham's story does not end with Noah, nor does his legacy end with the events of Genesis. His descendants became nations and peoples whose presence is woven throughout the Old and New Testaments of the Holy Bible. Through Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan, Ham's lineage became connected with kingdoms and civilizations stretching from Cush and Egypt to Canaan and the ancient Near East. His family line includes Nimrod, the mighty ruler associated with Babel and Shinar, the peoples of ancient Egypt and Kush who repeatedly appear throughout Israel's history, and the Canaanite nations whose lands and interactions with Israel became central to the biblical narrative. Generations later, people from these same regions continued to appear in scripture. From Ebed-Melech the Cushite, who courageously rescued the prophet Jeremiah, to the Ethiopian official of the kingdom of Kush who received the gospel and was baptized in Acts chapter 8. From Genesis to the New Testament, the lands, nations, and peoples associated with Ham's lineage were not merely on the margins of biblical history. They were participants in its unfolding story. Their kings, kingdoms, conflicts, acts of courage, encounters with God, and ultimately their inclusion in the spreading gospel remind us that the biblical story has always encompassed many nations and peoples. Ham and his descendants therefore represent an important and enduring branch of the family of nations recorded throughout Holy Scripture, beginning after the flood and continuing across the biblical world from the Old Testament into the age of the gospel. The evidence points us toward a powerful and often overlooked truth. Africa stands at the foundation of the human story and is deeply woven into the world of the Bible. Biblical genealogies, ancient history, and archaeological discoveries converge with modern scientific evidence affirming that Homo sapiens originated in Africa. Before nations drew borders and societies constructed racial categories, humanity's earliest chapters were written on African soil. Africa is not merely a footnote in biblical history. It is central to the story of human civilization. If this video taught you something new or encouraged you to explore biblical history more deeply, please share it with others, subscribe to the channel, and click the like button. Your support helps me continue this important research and create more thought-provoking videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and may your journey of discovery continue.